Hi, and welcome to Anne's Family Recipe. Today I'm making chicken piccata meatballs. In an effort to make the classic Italian dish, chicken piccata, a little more kid-friendly and accessible, I thought it would be perfect to transform it into meatballs. So that's what I'm doing here today. I just have a couple of ingredients to prep before we assemble our meatballs. So first, I'm going to chop up a bunch of parsley. I'm putting about a quarter cup of flat leaf Italian parsley that I'm going to chop up finely into my meatballs, and then I'll reserve a little bit of extra to sprinkle over the top when we're all done. So I like to kind of bundle all of my parsley up, and then with a sharp knife, this is that nice Kuhn Rikon knife that my husband got me for Christmas, you can slice through. This works for any fresh herbs that you might have. And then you have nice finely chopped parsley. And then you can just go back in the other direction to chop them a little more finely. But the key here is a nice sharp knife. Otherwise, you're just going to be bruising your herbs and not actually slicing through them. So I'm going to zest one lemon and then sprinkle that into my chicken meatballs, which is going to give them this burst of lemony, fresh flavor. And then I'm going to juice a couple of lemons. We want about a quarter cup of fresh lemon juice to pour into our sauce. Next, we're making our chicken meatballs. So I'm using my mother-in-law's meatball ratio. Whenever she makes regular like ground beef meatballs for spaghetti sauce, she'll use a pound of ground beef, and then per pound there's 1 egg, a half a cup of Italian seasoned breadcrumbs, and a half a cup of Parmesan cheese. So today I'm using 2 pounds of ground chicken, and I'm gonna use a cup of parm, a cup of the breadcrumbs, and 2 eggs, and then some additional seasonings too. So to this, I'm going to add about a quarter cup of this chopped parsley. And I'm gonna add the zest of 1 lemon, so that's probably about a teaspoon. And then I'm just gonna season this with a little bit of salt and pepper and garlic powder. And then I'm gonna mix it all together by hand. Get this all evenly incorporated. Next, I'm gonna roll my meatballs. So I have a baking tray over here that I line with foil and then sprayed so that nothing sticks to it. And then I also have a little dish of water back here, because when you're working with ground turkey or ground chicken, it tends to be a little bit stickier than ground beef. So sometimes it's nice to dip your fingertips or your hands into water so that the meat doesn't stick. So I'm gonna roll these meatballs probably about the size of a ping pong ball. I don't want them to be too big. Okay, just like that, and then I'll just line them up on my tray. We're not baking these. You could, but I'm actually just gonna cook them in a skillet with some olive oil, so we can use the same pan to create our sauce once these have cooked. I have a tablespoon of olive oil preheating in this skillet that's over about medium to medium high heat. And then I'm going to brown my chicken meatballs on both sides, probably in 2 batches, because you don't want to crowd the pan because then they'll steam and they won't get nice and brown. But don't be alarmed, these are not going to cook through in this phase. We're going to brown them on both sides and remove them from the pan, and then create our lemony sauce in this same pan, and then we'll add the meatballs back in and cover them, and they'll simmer for like 5 or 10 minutes until they're cooked through. I removed all my meatballs from the pan, and now I'm gonna make this incredible lemony sauce. The first step is to turn the heat off because we're adding white wine, and you don't want like a huge flame to come up in your face. Just for safety's sake, turn the heat off. But I like buying my wine. I don't know if it's totally cost effective, but my husband and I aren't gonna go through a whole bottle of white wine if I crack it open. So I buy these little bottles, and it's about a half a cup. I think they're 100 milliliters. It doesn't say on the front, it probably says on the box. But it comes in a little 4-pack. They're usually like $7. And this is just Pinot Grigio, which has a little bit of a lemony flavor to it too, which is gonna pair perfectly with the rest of our sauce. So I'm deglazing the pan, which means you're lifting all those yummy brown bits off the bottom of the pan from your meatballs by using our white wine. So we'll just pour that in. You can hear that little bit of a sizzle too, because the pan's still quite hot. And then I'll turn the heat back on and bring this wine to a simmer. So to our wine, we're also gonna add about a cup of chicken broth and then also our fresh lemon juice. And then I'll bring this liquid to a simmer and allow it to reduce down a little bit. So to thicken my sauce up a little bit, I have about a tablespoon of flour that I mixed with about a tablespoon of water. I whisked it together so that all the lumps came out. And I'm going to carefully pour that into my simmering mixture here and then whisk it. And that should help to thicken it up a little bit. You can leave the sauce just like this, or if you want to make it a little extra rich and decadent, you can add a splash of heavy cream too. Whatever sounds good to you. Now I'm ready to add my meatballs back in, and I'm also going to top them, let me grab it behind me here, with some capers. Now you might find these, I'll pick one up. These are kind of large. What are they called? These were just called capers in brine. I've actually worked with the non-Perriel size, which are smaller than this, but at my grocery store, they were like 3 times the price, and they were packed in salt, which I'd never seen before. I'm assuming you just rinse them off and then use them as you would normally, but I wasn't 100% sure how to work with them, so I decided just to get the big ones, which probably is gonna end up being better anyway, because I know that at least one, if not all of my kids are gonna pick these out anyway. So I'm just adding in maybe like a tablespoon or 2 of capers. And if a little bit of the brine goes in, that's okay too, because this is kind of adding our salty element to the dish. And then I'll stir those in and add the meatballs back in on top. These chicken piccata meatballs smell so lemony and delicious. I cannot wait to dig in. Now, as you can see, I'm serving them over a bed of creamy, buttery mashed potatoes, and I also steamed up some broccoli to serve on the side. Okay, here we go. Perfectly cooked through. I allowed them to simmer for about probably another 5 to 7 minutes. Get a little mashed potato in the sauce. Oh my goodness. My husband is gonna love this. They are bursting with lemon flavor. They taste a little bit like my Mediterranean chicken burgers, but a little bit richer, more comforting, kind of a fall to winter meal. Oh my gosh. He doesn't like when I take second bites because he wants to sit down at the dinner table and eat right away, but I took a second bite because it's that good. Oh, and that pop of saltiness from the capers is really good too. You know, I was thinking about it. My daughter Emma loves pickles, so I'm hoping that she'll give these a try because they're a little bit salty and briny and vinegary. This is so good. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and give this video a thumbs up if you like today's recipe. Thank you so much for joining me today in my kitchen, and I'll see you again soon with another family recipe.